So yeah, there's a decent amount of people who are wondering, oh, how do I take my environment and then, you know, actually create walls and this and that, like a finished wall, so to speak, that's actually not see-through and everything else because of Unity's occlusion and all that. And I'm just gonna go over how that happens so that you don't have to worry about it. Let's first open up week 13 because I don't believe I've made it visible quite yet. So we'll do that. And then we'll go over what we have in store here. All right. Dual pushes. The dual push. The pushes. The pushes. The dual push. All right. Good. Week 12 is not where we are. Somehow we made it to week 13. I have no idea how, but here we are. I'll turn, let's see, this I don't need. Alright, so basically this is a very, and it looks like I actually have some videos up on here, some of which may not be exactly what I want you to watch. This is definitely an older video, but probably still relevant due to the fact that it's talking about this game in particular, and I think they did a great job with many things. Now, as far as what I want to get into today, it'll mainly be all about the environment and how to put it together. So, this is from last year. Mainly helpful tips, this is true. I do want you to continue working on your milestones, and yeah, if you have questions, please reach out to me. I'll try to get back to people if I can. I really shouldn't because I'm off contract and I should be taking a vacation. So I probably might not answer you back, but if you do have a question during the break, I'll probably answer tomorrow, preferably, and the last Sunday of the vacation. So just expect an answer within those 2 days. Nothing in between, probably. You never know, though. I tend to say these things and then I end up answering back. I'm pretty good with that stuff, so.
I think, but isn't part of utilizing vacation?
Yep, but some people might have crazy little problems that are preventing them to make a build or stuff like that. So I want to be there to help out at least a little bit. Alright, good. So that's opened up for you all. And first things first, I want to get an example environment that I can build out. I kind of already had one with the that weird pirate cove, etc. But I think that I could do one better here. So I'm gonna find something intriguing, like what does Gumby's house look like? Gumby's house. What? That is not Gumby's house. See if we can get a top-down map of Gumby's house. That'd be hilarious. I don't think it's possible, though. Look at this guy. I like little green Gumbies, and I put them on my shelf. This guy's very surprised about his restaurant being shut down. Alright, so we'll find another map then. Top-down maps of building. Let's just say game and see what happens. Just in case. Nice. Alright. So lots to do here. Lots to choose from. I will pick something like, I think I'll pick something like this. I think that's good. I don't need anything crazy. This'll do. It's gonna save image as and put that in to this folder here. All right, and then we'll get into it here. So we have our top-down map. I'm gonna press the space bar, so I'm out in my 4 view within Maya. Feel free to catch up and open up Maya yourself if you want to follow along. This is going to help you to refine the process for making an indoor space, because it can be a little confusing for people as far as the way you have to lay things out, the way you have to extrude. A lot of people are just confused about how to make walls. I think it's been a question. Everybody's been thinking ahead, which I really like, but also I'm like, oh geez, I'm going to talk about that next week. Like, yeah.
I just put a bunch of cubes in there the same way that I did my building. I mean, the same way that I did in Unity. Does that work too?
If
Because the cubes build the walls.
if are you using the cubes to build the walls?
Yes.
Oh, just like bricks?
Yeah, except each wall is one cube.
Oh, okay. As long as they're connected.
They are.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
I'll just make them into one shape. I'll put everything inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one technique, which this doesn't work. This isn't gonna work for everybody, because some people will have more organic walls. If they're doing a cave or something, somebody will, maybe have just different shapes in general. Let's get what I have in there, and then we'll talk more about that. But that is a good way to do it. That's perfectly fine, as long as they're actually connected and properly sort of sewn together, so to speak. We'll put an image plane in the top-down view just to begin here. So we go to View, and then we'll go down to, and feel free to use your own legend right now, to get ahead on your work. And if you wanted to find that image and put it in here while I'm working, that's definitely advisable, just so you can get some work done while you're in class, but also learn a thing or two. And the same principles apply, really. There's no kind of like special technique or anything, aside from the action of making the walls, and like a more efficient way of doing it. But for the most part, it's pretty much the same as how you would go about creating for an object with reference images. I'll use that as an image plane. I'll put that in there. Another thing that came up was scaling in Maya versus scaling in Unity. So Maya inherently uses, probably by default for everybody, it's going to be either millimeters or centimeters. For our purposes, you would want to switch to meters. Unity uses meters, not millimeters, not centimeters, just meters. Obviously, this can be adjusted, but for our purposes, I think it's better to adjust it in the 3D software itself before exporting. So, how would we change that and ensure that we are good to go in that regard, so we don't have to worry about it, and the scale should be fairly, uniform from one application to the next? You're going to want to go to Windows, go down to Settings and or Preferences. You'll get a little pop-up like this. Then you'll select Settings, and you'll notice that it says centimeters here. We're just going to switch that to meter, and I'll just pause for a second, let you catch up to that. Save your settings, and then you should be good. You'll notice that your cubes get gigantic, or rather your grid squares get tiles get gigantic.
Yeah. My cubes all get really small. How much should I scale them up by? Because I think they don't really have to be scaled up by a certain amount.
Yeah, because we changed the units, you can, well, preferably it's better to work before you, like in the proper type of measurement, but it's not the end of the world, and it happens all the time. So you can just scale it up until it's relative to where it was before on the grid. So if you switch it back, perhaps to whatever it was before, like centimeters, you can then look at how many units it was wide. One way to do this, so you would basically go back into preferences, switch back to centimeters, and then Hudson, if you wanted an exact measurement, and this is actually a good tip for anybody, if you want an exact measurement of something, you can go to Windows. Actually, no, I want to go to. I want to go to Create, sorry. Create, Measure Tools, and you'll see this little tool called Distance Tool. It is pretty handy dandy. It looks badass when you're working with it, and it's nice. And then you get a couple of crosshairs here, or rather one crosshair, and you can then go into a view such as top down typically, select what you have on one side. What they call this little symbol here is a locator. And then you would select where the end distance measurement would be. In this case, over here. And it's precisely 21.676452 meters across. So then you would just replicate that from centimeters to meters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it should save your settings, unless you have to reset your preferences, which, you know, I recall showing you how to do that. Like you make a folder old prefs or whatever. That was a long time ago, but yeah, as long as you didn't do that, it should keep it in your little temp database of preferences. I guess it isn't really a temp folder though, because it holds on to it. All right. So I will, save my work here. And you'll see that the distance tool is now gray. That's kind of a nice thing. Our image plane is there. Our distance is there. As far as this goes, I don't know what is this the camera? Yes, that's the top view camera. I don't really want to see my cameras. I don't know how this happened. Maybe I turned it on by accident. You can just hide it in various ways. I'm actually just going to... Maybe what I'll do is... Oh, okay, it's in here probably. I must have clicked something in here for showing... I don't want to show all of it. Where are you, little cameras? There you go. Boop. Cameras off. So yeah, if you ever have an instance where you have something on that you don't want on, it won't go away, but you know, it's just distracting you, you can just hide it from that viewport tab there and show. So moving forward here, I'm definitely going to darken this map because it's just way too much to handle at the moment. A little bit too much noise while I'm working, right? So we'll dull that down a little bit, and we will proceed into what we need. Y'all see that all right? Yeah? Okay. Let's just bring up the top down real quick here. I'll actually up the gain a little bit. And then instead of graying it out a ton, I'll just, I'll make it a different color. Because why not? A nice warm color to help you wake up with sunshine in your heart. All right? Sunshine in your heart. Jason, do you have sunshine in your heart? What about you, Sean? Sean Roller? Aw, what about the moon? Well, the moon can be a nice dancing partner with the sun, you know. It really literally is. What the heck is this? A dead person? Oh, that's like a cross. That's dangerous. Don't go there. All right, so we're going to make this happen. And essentially, the way they have it set up, it looks like they have their environment set up in such a way where perhaps these are hallways, right? But honestly, I guess that's what it is. These are very thick walls, but that doesn't mean that they don't have to be thick. I want to actually make a perimeter, though, to just enclose the space and show you exactly what I'm getting at for through all of this. First things first, I want to make a layer for this image plane so that I don't get caught up in clicking on this by accident while I'm working. So I'm going to create a new layer, and this is review from prior knowledge and classes. This is where things start to kind of merge into each other and you get to relearn old things. So create a new layer and assign selected objects. There you go. And let's test it out. Looks like it's working. So the V being the visible. I'm going to double click that, give it a layer color. Oh yeah, I forgot it's warm. And then top down legend. We'll save that, make sure it's still good. Now this is going to you're still going to be able to select this. So who can tell me how to change that so that I can't select it while I'm working? Yeah?
You have to like click that little I don't know if it's like a letter or something a few times and it like switches to the mode you want.
That is pretty much the answer. That's a good way to think. Just, find the way to the answer and then don't actually answer, but it makes you seem like you know the answer, and then it's like, yeah, I want to do that more. I like that. I think I'm going to start doing it in meetings and stuff. Just be like, oh, yes, that's from this, from that, and that goes there. Oh, yes, he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. It's a good technique. But no, you're right. That's exactly where it is. And that's how you do it. You just click that a few times, and it's literally just the empty box next to the letters as you described. So you were right on target with that answer. And now I can't click it. You just have to go to the R reference, and you're good. R for reference. This is for technical. Being that this isn't a mesh, there's no wireframe, but usually this T stands for technical, and it's just pointing at the idea of a wireframe being technical, which I suppose it is because it's showing the way things are connecting. But yeah, we want it on R. So we'll zoom in a little bit more, and then we'll get started here. And I will go with a quad at first. And the quad is going to give me the lines I need to basically start making my little building of sorts. Or rather the plane or ground I need, the foundation, the literal foundation. So we'll go into create and we'll select polygon primitives. From there we'll go down to the plane. Select that. Press R on the keyboard. Yes, Hudson.
Yeah, when I switch to meters, now when I zoom out, the grid and all the objects kind of disappear when I zoom out a certain amount. This wasn't an issue when it was happening.
Might just need to be bigger. If you're in a top-down view, typically you can zoom out an infinitum Then things just,
It off at weird places.
yeah, but then if you just click on your object that you want in your outliner, press F on the keyboard for focus, and you'll get right on back to your object. So if your object disappears on you, go to the outliner, select it, and then press F on the keyboard to focus in on it, and you'll be good.
Alright.
So there is our quote-unquote quote floor. As for the polyplane, I want to make sure that I have a subdivision width that is proper and in place. So I'm going to go ahead and go with something a little bit simpler, like 2 and 2. You'll notice that I actually expanded outward, expanded the plane outward in such a way that I ended it right where the walls end. So the first walls to end, and in this case it was just the top and bottom portion of this top-down legend image, and that's where I let the walls stop. So from here, the only thing that's really needed is to start making the actual stuff, the subdivisions necessary to actually extrude upwards and migrate into 3 dimensions. So let's go ahead and get that going. I'll go ahead and go to Mesh Tools, and we'll do an Insert Edge Loop. Bring that up a little bit. I will repeat that over here. And before I begin to more thoroughly flesh this out, I'm just going to reanalyze what I have here. Make sure that nothing is symmetrical, because if it is symmetrical, then, well, I could save myself hours of work by just putting on symmetry, right? Nothing is symmetrical here. Well, yeah, no, not really. It kind of is, but at a sort of diagonal. So if I were to cut across here, it would be symmetrical, I think. Yes. But we don't want that. We'll just run through with it, and we'll get a good portion of this done so we can move ahead here. I'll then flesh out the outer rim here. The map is a little bit crooked, so I may actually make it not so crooked by selecting the R on my layer, turning it off so it's no longer a reference, R for reference. Then I will press Q on the keyboard to get out of the insert edge loop, because that's required. I'll select my image plane. And actually I'm gonna have to put a different material on my guy here, which is the actual plane. I want to place my shading at like X-ray or something. That way I don't accidentally get to another view and then the plane is occluding what I want to see, which is the map itself while I'm rotating. So I'll try and rotate this map. I'm gonna just kind of go like that a little bit. Luckily these still apply, so that's fine. That's actually better now. And relative speaking, it looks like it's good. Notice how my lines are like kind of gradiated, so to speak, on my floor shape. If I go to edge mode, notice the weird yellow fade of the edges where I'm selecting. This is what we call soft selection. You can get rid of soft selection by simply hitting B on the keyboard. You can toggle it on again by hitting B on the keyboard. But as you can recall, if you hold down B, you can adjust the size of your brush, and therefore, well, you can get the desired effect of the brush that you're using. Is it snowing right now? Oh wow. Rain drizzies. Rain drizzies. But I don't want soft select on. The whole purpose of soft select is to softly handle an object. So if a vertices is very edgy, then you may want to lift some vertices around it to soften the edge that it has a little bit, right? You don't want to only grab that edge. You want to grab surrounding edges or surrounding vertices. But to a certain amount of fall off, remember the fall off range, where it has an effect on it to a certain amount at a certain location, but then it falls off in strength of effect. We adjusted those in the brush the brush settings. We only did it once though, so if you don't remember, it's all good. You would notice them though, and you'd certainly be able to, there's the fall off there. You'll probably be able to jog your memory. Fall off curve. Selecting things and then selecting other things a little bit less around it. Kind of strange, right? If you want to get back to your old last tool, you just press G on the keyboard, and well, this one doesn't want to go for it, so I'll just click it. Usually you can actually get to it. If maybe I'm on multi-cut tool, and then I go to something like this to select something, press G on the keyboard, and G will give you your multi-tool back. Definitely useful for multi-cut tool, I will say that. I would continue with the insert edge loop though, just because it's a lot easier to handle and to kind of get things started. In this regard, I'll probably put a little subdivision there. And notice how I'm lining it up also with what is on the other side of this construction. So right there, I have a nice wall that starts, right? And being that the sketch isn't perfect, I'll probably just pretend that this is just fine right here. And we'll go ahead and continue putting a wall there. And as for this, we may have to just fudge it and let it be as it is, cutting through this. Or you could have just made a wall and then maybe connected here, but much easier to just do it like this, where you just do a whole loop through it. It does make more faces, but it's not the end of the world, because it won't be too extensive, and you'll see how we're gonna kind of tie it all together at some point here.
If you make a mistake with your edge loop, it'll be easy to fix that. Like, let's say you put one in a spot and you decide you don't like it and you want to make something bigger. Is it easy to fix that, or is it kind of difficult once you start doing things?
It's pretty easy. So, especially at this stage. So the question was, is it easy to, at least I think this is what you said, is it easy to essentially change where the edge loops are, or how they're actually being implemented?
And is it easier later on too? Like once I start fleshing things out and I'm like, ooh, I don't really like that anymore. Is it easy to fix it, or would I have to kind of start over?
It actually is, because what you can do is you can always go back, as long as you didn't go too far. Let's say you went, as long as you didn't put like a roof on it, and it's literally, you're able to still see top down through it, straight up, right into the rooms, no ceilings or anything. Then what you can do is you could press Q on the keyboard here and go into like vertex mode or something. And let's say you want these to be closer to this area here. You could do that by simply selecting them, and then luckily with the top down, you don't need to use these arrows because there's really nowhere else it can go except, on this axis. Let's say you wanted this down here, which, maybe it'll go down there at some point. If I were to cut through here as well, then you would move it and put it into place. Luckily, it would also grab all the walls that were extruded out of it, so you wouldn't have an issue. it gets a bit trickier when you're dealing with a cavern or something organic. And we're going to do something more organic with the curved shapes here. This is kind of why I picked this particular model. So, yeah, not too bad. Always remember, the rule is always remember you have more than one view, and usually you can make it work with one of those views. That's how I look at 3D modeling. And it's typically also how I think about things in the world, in the real world, or even like problems as well. Not everybody thinks in that very high visual sort of, with such a high visual dynamic, but for me, it just makes life easier. Makes life easier to compute, so to speak. And I can solve problems a lot easier. It's kind of like language, really. Language is, it's just a building block for representation of things that are manifested according to a defined, I guess mostly kind of like metaphor, especially if it's spoken, because the funny thing about speech is that you have to think about it first, even if you don't know that you're thinking about it. And therefore, that means everything we say is a metaphor, because we have to think about it, and then we're expressing what we thought of. That's pretty crazy. It's actually very Nietzsche. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, did you build the floor from a cube or a plane?
What's that?
Did you build the floor from a cube or a plane?
I used a plane. Yep. And now I'm making the walls. But yeah, so that's the gist of that. I went off target there a little bit with the Nietzsche philosophy there, but he is right. It's a pretty wild thing that he thought of, actually. So here we go. So we want to go ahead and ring this in here. I want to go ahead and get one more edge loop in here, and then maybe I'll start manipulating. Obviously, I'm not going to do the whole structure. That'd take some time, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. So, I love these mornings when I come into class and I just make things. It's fantastic. It looks really great too on the screen. It looks like we're doing some crazy shit. So people who walk by are like, "Oh man, these guys are so freaking smart, bro." But really, all they need to do is sit in on this class, and they can do it too, just like you're doing. A lot of you are on your phones right now, but yeah. But yeah, let's continue here. So that. I want to get one of these in here. This works. And yeah, I do have to kind of compromise. Like, this wall isn't exactly where I put the subdivision, but do I want this building to be straight or wonky? Maybe I do want it to be kind of wonky like that, the way it's drawn, but I'll keep it straight, right? I'm not too concerned with giving it more character than it already has. So we'll just put these in here, and I'm just finding where walls would be. It's as simple as that. So a wall would be here, and you need two sides to a wall. It's not one-sided. It is two-sided. So you have to just be aware of that as you're working. Try to make them relatively the same width across. Unfortunately, it can be a little bit frustrating to figure out where to place this in conjunction to other areas. The other edge, I should say. So if you do get into that situation, an easy way to sort of help yourself, you could use something like, perhaps you put a line in for all the walls, but you put that line in such a way that it's centered within the wall. And then to get an equidistant subdivision, you can go into Mesh Tools, and you'll use Offset Edge Loop. And then you just select the edge you want, in this case, this one, and you can actually get an equidistant wall, basically, or subdivision to some extent. And it does depend on the circumstances a little bit. You'll notice that because this has more, because I already put some things in, and it's not, these are not equal in space, this one and this one, that actually off-centered the center line. So when I use that offset tool, I get less space on this side of the line and more on this side. So there are some downfalls. You kind of have to work like that from the outset in order for it to really work right. But just an option for you if you're like really concerned about the walls being perfect and like realistic. But in the end, nobody's going to see how thick the walls are. They might feel it, but they're not gonna like see it, right? You had a question. Is there a what? A ruler? Where were you? Where were you? Where were you, man? Look at this. I'm just kidding. Don't get discouraged because I'm making fun. Distance tool. So you would actually go to create and measure tools, distance tool. And yeah, it's definitely good to bring this back up anyways, because I personally think this is a fantastic tool, especially if you're making something that like let's say you're working on a team and they're like, it must be this amount of meters wide and this meter high. You must do this like this. And then you can say, oh, well, I did it. And then you can put a measuring tool next to it in case they tell you that you didn't do it. And then you can be like, well, look at that. But yeah, and then this is how I'll show you how to use it. So you would actually select where you want to use it to start the measurement. So you just click once. You'll notice that something called a locator pops up. That's what this little cross is. And then we would go to the other side where we want it to end. And because it's crooked, I measured it wrong probably. But yeah, then you get your measurement. It's nice. I'm actually gonna put this in a reference mode again because I forgot. Press Q on the keyboard. And let's start making some cuts here. And some extrusions. At a certain point, you'll have to, and I'm ending my creation of the walls a little bit soon, just because I'm probably not going to get around to making this whole structure for you. I mean, I probably could, but then you wouldn't be able to follow along, and it would be like a stressful mess. So I'm just gonna shoot for getting a couple areas in, deleting. And I would actually advise you do this as well. Just delete the areas that you don't need. So right here, so delete that. Delete the ends here. Definitely don't need these faces here, so I'll delete those. This entire section can be deleted. Can delete this as well. And this. All of this, and I'm just drag selecting all of that and all of this little booger here. And because of the way that this is actually created, I could actually get rid of this as well. And then I could just move this upwards by going into vertex mode, drag selecting all of these goodies here. Press W on the keyboard, W. Bring that to there. We'll imagine that this is just going straight across. And remember the importance of edge flow. I think it is probably a good idea to just kind of try at least to make that a straight line of sorts, at least somewhat straight. Just so it's easier to UV map later, because it's gonna end up being skewed and a little bit wonky. So what we have is essentially the outer shell of a building, along with little coves and areas of variable space, right? I do want to drop this down a bit, this area here. So I'm gonna go ahead and make another insert edge loop in that area. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll plop that there, and that way we can actually now just go straight across here. Bring that to where I want it. You'll notice that the edge flow is kind of flowing with its friend up here, but a little bit less so, and that happens. It's a good thing. Press Q on the keyboard to get rid of that, and then I can go ahead and I can go to face mode again and just delete this little chunk. One thing that I think you'll remember from creating the curves and such of things, we actually were placing edge loops in such a way that it would allow us to move the vertices. I don't know if you recall that, but in our little modeling tutorials, so I'll actually do that. Instead of making what we would call a bevel, the bevel wouldn't really work because we would have to move these vertices anyways. They're way too close together, so you wouldn't really get much of a rounded curve to the building. So we just want to make another edge loop in there. We'll press Q just to get out of our tool. We'll go into vertex mode, and then we'll just start shaping our space. One thing about our current space is that it really wants to be kind of digging into this spot as well. So it could be wise to actually create an edge loop here, and then underneath here. So let's do that. Let's make that happen. I know I'm kind of seeing things again as I'm going through stuff, so bear with me. There's one there, plop one there and there. Bring this down here, and then we can go ahead and just Q on the keyboard, face mode, grab that, and delete. Lovely. Very, very good. Back to Q and back to what I was doing. So Q on the keyboard to get out of our tool, because edge loops can be annoying. Like that. And I want to just bring this. I would like it to be straight still, actually. So let's not bring that out. Let's actually keep it like that. And video pause. Continue watching. Yes. Thank you. And we'll go back to lo-fi hip-hop because, you know, what you gonna do? What you gonna do but hippity-hop? All right, cool. So we got that on there. I'm going to tone that down a little bit because it's a little bit too much for me to handle. Plop that in there. Minimize. And back to work. You know, I came across, you know what they don't do in universities? They don't teach you how to this is good stuff, Jason. They don't teach you how to handle drama in the workplace, right? I think I should start doing tangents about that, and then it's like you're learning this and getting drama from my life, but so I get therapy out of it, but also also you get to you get to experience what I experience and therefore learn from it. And I'll tell you what, right now I can tell you one. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the videographer that helped with the marketing of my holocomic, and he gave me absolutely no context about the meeting. Me and him literally got in a fight the last time we spoke, which was like 3 months ago, and it was like actually kind of a physical altercation, so that was interesting. But I was just defending myself. This guy's a nut, you know, he's crazy. So I did not start anything, and so he and I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover, you know. I'm like Michael Jackson, you know. No, because he's a little creepy, but well, at least we think he is. He might not be, you know. We don't know for sure. Did he ever get acquitted on those charges? Did that ever go anywhere? Don't you love how like these high-profile people, they got all this baggage, but it just kind of like flies under the radar. Like you hear about it, but you don't hear about the resolution. Like with all of Trump's cases, there aren't really any resolutions. Or like all of Biden's son's thing. All of a sudden, nobody's talking about Hunter Biden anymore. But like that was a whole big deal. You know, the whole laptop thing and all that. So both sides are like corrupt and all this, but nobody talks about like the final ending to the trials, and then it just disappears, and everybody loves them again. It's like what? You know, the only person that I can think of where that hasn't really happened is Arnold Schwarzenegger. That dude's just pure and beautiful. There is nothing wrong with that man. Also, he came out with a beautiful. Yeah, you got something?
I think there was something with the maid. I'm not too sure.
With a maid?
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
I don't blame him. You know.
Like just,
I love, you know, maids. You know, I don't know. Maids are beautiful. I don't care what they look like. Maids, automatic beauty. You know, male, female, whatever. You know, you put a little maid thing on, you're good to go. Just automatic beauty. You know, what do you think, Hudson? Auto beauty. You just put the maid stuff on, good to go. Man or lady or whoever.
Wait, what were we talking about?
Is this your defense of Schwarzenegger?
No, well, he said that there was something about a maid with Schwarzenegger.
Talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger in a maid outfit.
Oh, that would be great. Yo, I'm gonna see if I can get a hold of him and be like, yo, we need a picture of you. Can you do this for me? Just for me, Arnold? He's such an interesting human being. He's actually seems like a really nice guy. He had like a documentary or no, he had an interview recently, and it was just all about like love and like peace, and he was like, you know, talking about how like we gotta like, you know, chill out a little bit. It was really nice. I'll have to send it to y'all at some point. So bring this in, and I'm literally just kind of orienting my vertices, just like I was doing in the past when I was doing these things. I do want to be careful of how I place my stuff. I think for this, I'd probably just bring that over there. This is where it helps to not have a crooked drawing, because you don't have to guess, but it's not really that bad. We'll just bring it down here and rein it in. There we go. What is this 1% on your hat? What is that?
1%. It's
Like the 1%?
no, it's a streamer that I used to work for.
Oh. Well, I'll tell you what, it's pretty cool. I like that hat. It's like a what? A what? Oh, no. Your mother, she doesn't know. So let's say we actually get our walls in place and we're good to go. We can shift these around, and hopefully you're not leaving because of Arnold Schwarzenegger and maids. And And then we'll bring this in. I think they had to go to an appointment or something. Can't remember. All right, we'll bring that in there. Good. The other thing is I'd probably want to make sure that maybe there isn't this like weird edge or angle, so to speak. So I may want to do something like this where I go ahead and I go to Mesh Tools, back to Insert Edge Loop. Maybe just make one here just to help myself out a little bit. Did you lose something?
I think I might have lost my hat actually.
Oh, really?
I hope I left it at home because if I didn't, I'm going to freak out.
No, you did leave it at home because it wasn't on.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Yep, you are good. You can also refer back to your memory about being cold. Was your head cold?
I had my hood on.
Oh, there you go. So there you go. That's the. I'm trying to make you feel better so you don't freak out. I know how that is. I hate that.
I think I did leave it at home because
Yeah, I mean you didn't have it on, so doesn't mean you didn't lose it, but I don't think you did. All right, so there we are. And it's just a matter of being nuanced, kind of getting things where you need it to be. Make sure that, I don't know if you ever recalled this from before, but we have this little vertices here. And this vertices, if you were to make this kind of straight like that, or if it's sort of bent in like this, the problem with that is that now the face is folding in on itself, and that would be considered bad geometry, and UV mapping wouldn't like it, so you just have to be careful with that. Whenever you're dealing with those corners of a face, they tend to be a little iffy, so you have to be careful with it. As for these guys, I really don't need these two vertices here, so I'll actually just make a connection. I'll go from this edge to this, so I'll actually just weld the edges together. That should suffice. There we go. One try, that's not bad. All right, so yeah, we'll stop there for the crazy nuanced work, and I might adjust a couple things because that's what I do. Bring this guy down and around, maybe like to here, and to here. And the goal is just to make things equidistant and nice to some extent. All right. We'll go into our view here. We'll go to object mode. And this is where I start to give the, I might actually exit the X-ray shading that I had for this floor. So if I go to shading, I guess I didn't have it on here, so I guess I'm good. But prior, in the other viewport, I had it on X-ray. I was gonna change that, but I guess I don't have to change it on this one. I'll lift it up slightly so it's just above the surface of the image plane. And actually, better yet, keeping that zeroed out may be the ideal thing to do, but we'll adjust for that later. I wouldn't worry about it too much here. You can always put things in place at a later time if you forget. And we're freezing the transforms anyways, so we should be fine. Just make sure you put your pivot somewhere where it makes sense when you're done with the level object. So there we go. And if you wanted to, you could take it one step further, go to Attribute Editor, select your object, and I would first delete history so we can get rid of all these crazy tabs. Delete all by type history. There we are. Standard surface. Let's adjust the sort of weight of it, perhaps, or well, maybe not the weight, but the transmission. We're gonna go ahead and just bring the transmission, which is very similar to translucency or transparency. We'll bring that up a little bit so that we have 50% opacity, or more precisely, it would be 47% opaque. Or maybe I'll drop it down to exactly 50, why not? There we are. And then you would just extrude. It's as simple as that. We would get these walls and we would select all these boogers and all the walls that we want. It's healthy to try and do them all together, at least for the perimeter, because otherwise you may run into an issue where you have the actual faces are just not actually attached after you extrude because, well, you didn't extrude them together, right? So we'll bring this up and around. We'll pretend this is a square corner, so just out of brevity and speed here. We'll bring this all together. Looks like I forgot one there, but that's okay. We'll just keep it open.
Yeah, with the plane or the cubes, since I'm doing it with cubes, is it okay to do that way and then just fuse the shape?
Oh yeah, if you fuse, this is one technique. So if you did a technique where you actually made the cubes for the walls, which would actually be nice because then you can, you know that each wall is the same thickness.
Yeah.
And then you can customize with insert edge loops. It's just a different way of working. It's the way you wouldn't work as orthographically in that sense. Like we're working very orthographically right now. We spent most of our time in the top-down view. We didn't really get into perspective until about 45 minutes into the class, so or an hour into the class rather. But I also talked about maids and Arnold Schwarzenegger, so Jake Adams, please report to the what do you call it? What do you call that? The Title IX office or something for talking about maids. Oh, I didn't say anything bad. I was just talking about people and how they're beautiful. All right, so we're gonna go in here and take a look. So now I have a building. Look at that. I have a building. It's beautiful. It's lovely. And if I do this, that's that. All right. Completely solid, completely without any sort of, I want to say N-gon. There's no N-gons, right? That's the beauty of it. So this is a good sort of efficient way to make your level. The more interactive way, a little bit less efficient way, but a nice way, is what Hudson did, and honestly, it's totally fine. You can work that way if that works for you. If you're quicker in that way too, like that, by all means, that means it's just as efficient, right? So, it just depends what you like to do. Hudson, did you have another question?
Yeah. When I scaled up to a meter, the translate scaled down to like 0.12, so I was just able to scale those up to like 12, back up to 12.
There you go. That's actually, I like that you brought that up. Yeah, think about it in a matter of multiplication or, yeah.
Yeah, and then the scales themselves didn't scale down to like 0.05, so they just stayed at 5. They're still tiny, so I had to make them like 500.
Oh, okay. 500?
Uh-huh.
Oh, interesting. It could be that wasn't, maybe it wasn't, the scale wasn't freeze transformed or something at some point.
Maybe I forgot.
Yeah, that could be what it was.
Should still work on transfer though, hopefully, because
Yeah.
the scale of the objects are centimeters and the scale of the actual.
Yeah, you're right. That's weird. Huh. All right, cool. So, we'll just save this. So yeah, I guess if you do change your scale, that's actually, I like that you brought that up actually. If you do change your scale, you might as well just freeze transform everything first. That way you know that everything's relative. And then freeze transform again before you export, of course. Then you're really golden. Shouldn't have any issues. Let's see how tall my walls are. I think the walls could use some. I think I could use some input on that because I don't know what it is. So here are my walls. Looks like 1, 2, 3, just about 3 meters. It looks like. That's the beauty of meters, is it's like, oh yeah, I know what that is. It's just 3 of these, and therefore that's that. I feel like centimeters gets a little tricky because I can't interpret that in my head very well. I'm like, oh, yeah, 100 centimeters, yeah, I don't know. So it's a matter of, because I think a meter is like 3.1 feet or something like that, right? But to be totally sure that we got the right measurement and all that, let's go ahead and just make a measurement. And this will be good review. Measure tool, distance tool. And I'll just take a measurement from here. Oops. Oh, and then there. Except I can't see it. Why would it do that? That's weird. Huh. There's that one. Okay. It's not showing up here, so hold on a second. It shows up there though. Guess it likes the front view and not the side view. That's weird. Alright. Well, here we go then. We'll just do it again. So I'll just select that and that. Yeah, that's about 3. You can also move these if you'd like. You can move these locators here. So if I were to just get locator 6, W, and it'll move the distance tool so it's straighter. So it's like a 9, a little over a 9 foot, maybe 9.5 foot wall. Now, one thing that I'm going to be teaching you all is how to, how to put the roof on things, but also how to actually make walls look more realistic. One thing that I think a lot of people forget about is the fact that walls are, well, they're not, there may be walls that are curved, but there are also walls that are not curved, but they still have a soft edge. All edges are soft when it comes to walls because it's, it's either plaster or drywall, so there's some kind of curvation or curve going on. If we look at the edge of this wall here, I don't know if you'll see it, but there's, you can, I don't even know if I can point this out, but it's not totally sharp, right? Like this has little ridges in it, but also, they put a sort of metal cap on the edge here, and then they plaster over it. That's why it sounds like metal, and that doesn't, right? But yeah, this is soft. So you just put a little edge in there, preferably maybe like, very, very close to the other edge. So I don't know if I would use a full-on offset edge loop, but it does make it easier to kind of shape that. So if you go to Mesh Tools, you go to Offset Edge Loop, select that wall right there, and just find a way to go up or down to get your soft edge. Alternatively, you could do this, where you undo that offset edge loop, and instead you just bevel it. So you could just bevel it like this, and then you can sort of adjust accordingly. I would definitely put at least 2 of those in there. 2 segments, so one segment being this face, the other being that face, this face and that face. And then it's rounded out, but you don't want it to be that round. That's just obnoxious, right? So take this, and that's why I like the offset edge loop, because it's not as intrusive. However, a bevel is nice because it, it goes in, it tries at least to mitigate the n-gons. It does form other n-gons, of course, so it ends up kind of being more work, actually. So maybe we won't do that, and we'll stick with edge loop. I think that's the better way to go. Offset edge loop, click and drag, make it nice and tiny, and Q on the keyboard. Make sure you're in edge mode, and one way to redirect the direction of your gizmo is to make sure you're on the gizmo type that you want, in this case translation. And let's make it component so that our arrow is pointing towards the wall, into the wall. We'll just make component, and there you are. In this case, it's pointing out, but it's the same sort of idea. We can actually push it in a very centered fashion, much easier. And we just soften it ever so slightly, soften that edge a little bit, and it's not as dramatic of an edge. It's more realistic. The light will hit it in a nicer way, and so forth. Go through it one more time. The edge there.
Yeah.
Yep. So you would just do a little offset edge loop. Select the edge you want to offset. In this case, it's this one. They're a little bit off here, so I'll probably have to do some stuff manually. I'll just press Q and W. Bring it in a little bit. And keep in mind, you are going to have to, make this, actually sort this out so it's not an n-gon, right? One way to do that would just be to bring these together in such a way. But let me finish this one again for you, Hudson. So that's the insert edge loop or offset edge loop, and we have a little bit of an opportunity to just kind of nudge this outward a little bit. The only issue is that this was a little bit off, so I'm just gonna push that in slightly. There we go. And now it's actually mimicking what I had for my component or my gizmo before. But let's say that I don't have it on that and it was back to the world position, axis orientation. Then I would switch to component, axis orientation in the tool settings. And we've been over this before, so just review. And then you can then push it out in this case, just to round it out a little bit. And this just helps to, again, make it look more realistic, right? Not as obnoxiously sharp of an edge. Sometimes you might want a sharp edge, other times you may not. So I'm just showing you the more organic looking, realistic looking way about things. Now at this point, what I would do is I would just take the multi-cut tool and probably just go like this, press enter. 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, that should be fine. And I could actually do this as well for this guy here. I would probably bring that to, oops. Oh, I probably want to first get honed in on it because it's being a little crazy. Vertex, F on the keyboard, and then we'll do a multi-cut tool. Select that guy there. all the way to here. And then you just repeat, you know, on this side. You could probably actually do that, honestly. And there, and you would repeat it over here, right? I'm not going to get into that again, but same premise. As for the roof, that depends on what you're doing. In this case, if it's a dome roof, you would have to I would probably advise you to take what you have for the top. Let's see, if I touch this, and this. Making sure that I don't go overboard here. And I'll just do this so that you can see it. And then I'll let you all go in a couple minutes here. Control E on the keyboard. I'll raise up this portion. Not too much though. And that's about the lip that I would want. Let's say I'm making a dome shape, right? And obviously I would typically have some kind of other reference image that I can actually see from this angle, from a side or front view. In this case I don't, but I'm gonna pretend I do, and I'm gonna do like a little curved dome here, but maybe it flares out a little bit over here. So bring this like this. And just gonna shift it into this position. Control E again, bring that up and over. Control E. And then you would just continue that until you get there, right? Just like we've practiced. You may come across some issues where it's not really mimicking what you want from a certain angle or from a certain side of the building, like this side here. You can just adjust accordingly. I'm not gonna really show you how to do that because you know what you're doing. And yeah, you just continue that up until you're at the spot you like. And obviously reference images are king, so keep that in mind. And you may have to do something like this where you actually have to rotate the faces a little bit so you can then continue to curve around in a more smoother fashion. There you are. The key here is to just make sure that the angle is always is always parallel to the angle of this edge, and then you're good. With that, I bid you farewell. Happy turkeys, if you celebrate turkeys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Apologies for Arnold Schwarzenegger in a maid costume talk, you know. I don't think apologies are in order, though. I think you were entertained thoroughly.
You're one of those Christmas before Thanksgiving people
Yes.
who started listening to Christmas.